Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So we got another release for the Legacy of Phrecia event today, and I am now officially really excited. So I actually really like the Herald Witch, and there's a reason for why I like the Herald Witch, and I'll run the video in a moment. It's from 4 years ago, almost like when I started getting into a lot of the build stuff in Path of Exile. It was actually Delirium League. I was actually around a lot longer than that, but Delirium League, I had one of my all-time favorite builds, and one of the builds that I guess at the time was like my go-to build, where I started like making build combinations and things like that based on the patch notes in 3.10, and it was my Herald of Purity, Herald of Agony Guardian at the time. And the reason why this was really good at that point in time in 3.10 is there was a thing called, I believe, Purposeful Harbinger, and you could stack those. This was when cluster jewels were first added to the game in Path of Exile 1, and you could stack them, which meant you could get Virulence, which would allow your Herald of Agony minion to be OP as hell, and you could also get an additional amount of Sentinels of Purity, which is spawned from Herald of Purity. Now, since that time, there have been a lot of things changed in the game. This was never the strongest build in the game, but it was hella fun, and it's also really good for delving and stuff like that. With the introduction of things like Savalin, which is the max block shield, also like to be able to play like CI and stuff like that. With the Herald Witch, that is gonna be super fun, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna resurrect my old Guardian build in Witch form, and it's gonna be dope. And the second one is the Paladin. And we've never had a Paladin in Path of Exile. Like Templar with the Inquisitor sort of got close. But Paladin, it actually looks really cool. And I'll explain, it's got a lot of emphasis on link skills. But link skills can be really, really strong. They just weren't very well supported in Path of Exile 1 up until this event. And I sort of hope that this takes and becomes a main part of Path of Exile 1, because the crazy wacko builds that we can make out of some of this stuff, like even just like Coming Calamity, we'll talk about stuff like that in the video further on, is really cool to think about. Anyway, let's roll some 4 or 5 year old footage to show you exactly what my old build used to look like, and then talk about the 2 new Ascendancies. And if you guys like this video, we'll do 2 more, which are the other 2 that are announced today as well. We'll do those tomorrow. And I've also got a Path of Exile 2 build video coming out about build diversity, which will be out in the next few days as well. Anyway, enjoy. Okay, so this is the first Ascendancy off the rank, which I'm excited about. And now, like, I was looking at the other Ascendancies, but now I really want to play Herald Stacking Witch, and I want to resurrect my old build, because I really like that build, and I think I can make it way better in 2025, considering I know much more about the game, min-maxing, and also you just didn't have the tech back then. So basically, with the original Herald of Agony builds and whatnot, you used to use twin Cold Iron points, which gives you +6 to your skill gems. We get like a base here, so Apocalypse gives us +3, And I don't think anyone realizes that's a huge amount of damage for like Herald stacking gems, right? So not to mention we could also use like Empower. So we could get like 2 Cold Iron points, +6, +3, +9. You get level 21, that's the level 30 gem. You get Empower, you could get up to like, say, like level 34. And then if we stack enough plus to gem sockets in our gear for minion skills and whatnot, because they do fall underneath the minion moniker, then basically we could potentially with this Ascendancy get like a, you know, a level 40 Sentinel of Purity, which, and I don't think we've ever seen a level 40 Sentinel of Purity or Herald of Agony minion before, but that would be absolutely ballistic damage. In particular, if we chose which minion was their affinity, we could use the Replica Dragon's Flight gem, which gives another +3. And then basically we could get the +2 Helm as well, which would give us +5, so that gets us to level 35. And then anywhere else, you can get rolls on like chest pieces and stuff like that. That can give you plus to like different attributes and modifiers. But, you know, we would have a play with that. Defensively, I'm not sure how we would play this defensively, but anyway, now I'm starting to build cook because, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is dope. Now there are like, there have been minion builds as well, or Herald of Purity builds that have used basically Brittle, and you then crank up the crit using Brittle, and we just need to find a way to make the build really tanky. Now the other argument is, well, we don't need the extra cold iron point with that +3, so we could basically turn around and put a Surveillance on and have Lucky Block, which would make us really tanky as well. And that's another option. And I actually did a Herald of Agony build in the 3.25 league, which I took through to T17 maps. It wasn't the best build in the world, but we didn't have technology like this. And quite frankly, this would just make it an absolute monster now. So my build from 3.25 will probably retrofit that tree and make that work for this special league, and basically gives us a really chonky build and resurrecting an old dead build. Now, why did my build die from 310? So originally there was a thing called Purposeful Harbinger, which was built into the Cluster Jewel system in 3.10. Now, the Cluster Jewels in Delirium first came in 3.10 because that's when Power Creep was like starting to get pretty wild, but Cluster Jewels were like a new answer to being able to create new build diversity at the time. And so it introduced stacking of additional virulence and also Sentinel of Purity. Now, you can also get the rings that drop from Cortex as well that buff up the damage of your Sentinel of Purity or Hoag as well. So I think it's Anguish of Agony or something like that. Circle of Agony and Circle of, I think, Iron or something like that. And basically, we could essentially throttle the damage even further with those rings as well to make it even more potent. So we've got rings that synergize with this, basically plus to level of gems. Replica Dragon's Flight would synergize with this configuration really well. We could get a minion wand, which is like +2, so +1 to all spell skills and +1 to all minion skills, and then absolutely throttle minion damage and attack speed and stuff like that too, which is another option that we could exercise. And then we could use Ball Light of Orbiting to basically trigger the minions, or trigger the Sentinels of Purity, and also trigger the Herald of Agony crawler as well to do absolutely ballistic damage. Now, Apocalypse, 100% is fantastic. +3 to all Herald skills. We could do that, no sweat. Scourge, no-brainer. +2 to Sentinels of Purity. And 66% increased damage while you're affected by a Herald. And if we were stacking Hoag and Hop, that's going to be really, really powerful. 5% increased Persecution, 5% increased critical strike chance to Herald skills, and Herald skills have 50% AoE. This would be really good for like a Herald of Thunder auto bomber, and I'm assuming there are going to be plenty of people abusing the living daylights out of Herald of Thunder auto bombers. So if you're one of those people, this is the go-to take for that. Coming Calamity is actually a is actually a chess piece. So, yeah, I think it's Coming Calamity. So basically, 200% increased mana reservation efficiency of Herald skills. Now, whenever you add an additional, like, a link to your Herald skills, it takes up more mana. So if you're playing minions, you can cap out your mana really quickly. And the way that you get around this is you could use a chess piece like Coming Calamity, or use a lot of mana reservation efficiency. I feel like this could hinder our build because we would lose the ability to use auras. So I'm not sure about this because there are other ways to go around balancing this without taking this node. Future Nostalgia, 75% chance to chaos resistance while affected by Herald of Agony. Herald of Agony has 100% increased buff effect. This is literally taken from the circle ring that drops from Cortex. It's pretty OP. That could be really good if we're playing Herald of Agony. Like, I'm starting to look at this just going, Herald of Agony is going to be really, really strong with this. Alright, so Herald of Thunder has 100% increased buff effect. Again, if you're going to play Herald of Thunder Auto Bomber, this is going to be a go-to. Future Anguish, Herald of Ash has 100% increased buff effect. Again, this is taken from the circle rings. Future Fear, Herald of Ice, again, same deal, and Herald of Purity has 100% increased buff effect. So, it depends on what our main damage dealing skill would be, whether it would be Herald of Agony or Herald of Purity with Future Guilt, as to which one we would take. But we could also recompensate this and do you could get enough buff effect on rings to hit like plus 200% buff effect on Herald of Agony or Purity, which would be just totally absolutely nuts, right? You'd be doing face peeling levels of damage with your Herald of Purity or Agony minions. So these are things to all consider, but this is definitely a node that we would take. And then basically we've got Retribution, 20% chance to gain Elemental Conflux for 4 seconds when you kill an enemy. So this won't work with minion skills, but it will work with things like Herald of Thunder auto bombers and stuff like that. And that was already a working build, right? It basically was can't remember. I think they use Annihilating Light for that build, so you get triple elemental damage and pen. And then basically, yeah, you could run that. Yeah, anyway, we'll do some build cooking. We'll put some build comments. If you want to see me put together an auto bomber tree for use for this league, we can absolutely do that. Let me know in the comments below. And then we've got Damnation. Gain additional elemental damage reduction equal to half of your chaos resistance, maximum endurance, frenzy, and power charges 0. You really don't need endurance, frenzy, and power charges when you play like a minion variants. So gain additional elemental damage reduction equal to half your chaos resistance would actually be really, really strong if you're playing the Herald of Agony configuration, because you would be getting plus 75 to chaos resistance, and you'd easily cap chaos resistance early, and then you get 50% of that is your elemental damage reduction, which would be what, like 30, I can't do math there, 37.5, something like that. So basically that would be incredibly powerful, and then we could use different things like we could use your Doriani's jewels, or we could use some other form of like Glorious Vanity or something like that to basically proc that up further. We could use Fourth Vow to actually make that a hell of a lot more powerful, because we could then do like elemental damage conversion to chaos, and then use Fourth Vow to totally mitigate all of our incoming damage. So that's also an option as well. So yeah, there's a number of different things we can do with this sort of configuration. I actually think of all the trees released to date, this is probably the most OP tree. And I feel like this will be probably the tree that the majority of people abuse, as well as the fishing tree, because quite frankly, why wouldn't you abuse the fishing tree on the shadow? But yeah, so far this is my favorite one. I think like this is going to be a goer. So we're going to be bringing back Herald of Agony with Herald of Purity, and dual stacking that and just making like a ridiculously tanky Surveillance build or something like that. That's basically what's going through my mind right now. And if you guys, again, if you want to see a working POB of that, we can put something together for that. So let me know in the below comments if you want to see a tree for Herald of Purity and some theory crafting, and Herald of Agony, and also if you want to see a Herald of Thunder auto bomber configuration, we can pull a tree down and work with that and configure it to basically theory craft that out as well, because I think that's going to be two of the, or three of the best routes to go with this configuration as it is. Okay, so the next ascendancy that's being added to the event is the Paladin. Now, I have wanted a Paladin in Path of Exile for so long, it's ridiculous. The Ascendancy itself, I don't know, you could look at it and think that it's quite lackluster, but from what I can see, based on things I've wanted to do for a very long time in the game, I actually think that this Ascendancy is probably pretty OP. Now, the reason why is I don't really care about these bring the battle nodes here, right? This is pretty bad. Enemies taunted by you take 20% increased damage, Enemies taunted by you deal 20% less damage with hits and ailments against other targets. War cries have infinite power. Arguably, that could be strong, but I don't think that's really the piece de resistance here, right? Light of Divinity, and nearby enemies take 25% increased elemental damage. Again, I don't think that's like a game changer. Elemental Valiance. This one gives you 25% chance to trigger level 20 summon elemental relic when a nearby enemy kills when a nearby enemy kill an enemy or hit a rare or unique enemy. Like, this could be really powerful because is elemental relic a skill that stacks, or is it one elemental relic? That's what we really need to understand with that one. But there's actually a really good Holy Relic Bala Mage build that was put out a little while ago, and if this functions anywhere near that, this could actually be pretty powerful. Anointed Champion, you have Consecrated Ground around you while stationary. Effects of Consecrated Ground linger for 4 seconds. This is basically just from the already established Templar Ascendancy, right? The Inquisitor Ascendancy. So that's, nothing new. This is quite powerful here. So these nodes give you Discipline, Determination, or Grace, but level 30 variations of this. Now, arguably that could be really powerful because level 30, level 30 Discipline number 1, just to put into perspective, if you're doing ES stacking with level 30, that's an absolutely enormous amount of ES. And that means do you need to, well, you probably need reservation with that, but realistically, like, if you ran like All's Uprising, you could get a free aura out of this because that would mean that your discipline reserves no mana. But I think you're only looking at like 35% reservation of that anyway. But does I would assume that your overall reservation efficiency applies to this aura the same as any other aura as well. So you could streamline this in your build, but early on this would be quite powerful. Even Determination, with the way that you have multiplicative changes now to armor, level 30 would be absolutely insane. And the question still begs to ask, like, can you modify this up if you have plus level to auras and stuff like that too, as global modifiers? That's another question that we really don't know the answer to until we test it. Now, the things that I'm actually excited about with this, I don't really care about this side at all. I think these are pretty average nodes, and most people will probably agree. By default, I'm going to take one of these because I'm a defensive player, so I like having strong defenses. Grace probably isn't the best for this, considering, though, on the duelist, it would make sense to run, you could play Grace pretty easily. Discipline would be harder because you wouldn't be near a lot of ES nodes. So Determination and Grace probably still are the two best to play in this case. In this case, you could play like an evasive max block setup, which would be quite powerful. So just bearing on that mind. Now, there is these other 3 nodes, which I'm really excited about. So number 1, Absolution. Curses are inflicted on you, curses are inflicted on you instead of linked targets. 40% increased effect of non-curse auras from your skills while you have a linked target. So basically, this would buff these up. So 40% increased effect of these, which would already be quite powerful, would only make this incredibly more powerful. Now, what I'm actually thinking with this is like, if you're going to play link skills, and by the way, we'll talk about link skills in a moment too, and the changes that were made to them. But anyway, so we've got Deep Connection, so +5 to level of all link skill gems. You lose no experience when you die because of a link target dying. So the way that links work is you basically cast your link skill, and we'll go through the link page shortly. And if your minion dies, or if the ally dies, then basically you go boom at the same time. And that's basically the biggest deterrent of links and why nobody really played link builds, because it was pretty trash. Then we got field medicine. So magic utility flasks applied to you have 40% increased effect. Non-unique utility flasks you use apply to linked targets. So this would be like, your bottled faith and stuff like that would all apply to your linked targets, which could buff up minion damage pretty significantly. Now, there's 2 trains of thoughts. You could use this as like an aura stacking build that you link to your allies, and you could play it as a party build. That's one way to do it. The other way that I always wanted to play Link, and there just wasn't anything in the game that enabled links like this in the past, was actually running like minions, right? So a little while ago, they actually made this patch in here. I can't remember what league it was. I think it'll tell us down here. Yeah, so there are changes to link masteries as well as link related notables. This was in 3.21, and I think they made it so that you could actually link up to minions. So we'll go through this shortly, but basically, minions, the minion defense mastery allows a character to link to damageable minions. So this was this mastery that was put in the game. Bonuses from minion defense mastery can be allocated for 1 passive point by allocating in the notable passive tree. So this is in the passive tree as one of your like masteries. So if we open up the tree here, right, and go to any like usually these minion masteries are down here. Where are they? So it's not that one. It'll be where links are. So let's just type link. All right. So here, so we have it. Link skills can target damageable minions, right? It's the second option that you can see up in the tree. So basically that allows you to link on to minions, okay? So basically with that in mind, then everything that we see in this can be applied to minions and we can buff up our minions. And that means that we could play an absolutely insane Spectre build, for example. Now, it'll depend on the type of minions that are going to be in the league and whatnot, but you could use whatever the meta Spectres are, for example. You could use golems as well, so you could use like some pretty cracked up golems and you could do it that way. So maybe even like stone golem could arguably be quite powerful. But basically, the link skills, how they operate is they create a bond between a character and a specific party member with this notable, sorry, if we go back to the tree, with this notable in here, or a mastery point, link skills can be damageable minions. We can do that to minions, so that basically changes the entire dynamic of the skill. And then basically, if the target dies when linked, you will also die. Link skills cannot be triggered or used by totems, traps, or mines. So that's a caveat. Now, it does provide a benefit when in range, but there's a way to get around this, and it's by using the Hand of Phrecia. Funnily enough, the event is called Legacy of Phrecia, so wouldn't that be funny? I actually think these will end up being chase gloves if people start doing this. So basically, you get really the other stats don't matter. The stats that do matter are down here. So link targets always count as in range of non-curse auras from your skills. That's really interesting. Non-curse auras from your skills only apply to you and link targets. So that basically refines the auras that you're running. So when it says non-curse, you can use Blasphemy and turn curses into auras, similar in Path of Exile 2 if you're a Path of Exile 2 player. But in PoE1, it's a lot more proficient and works a lot better, to be honest with you. And then basically, yeah, your auras only apply to your linked targets. And that's okay because you would expect to be linking targets. Now, the question is, like, how often do you need to link targets? Yeah, these are some of the things we don't really understand. And then we get 40% increased effect of non-curse auras from your skills while you have a linked target. So basically, you would have your specters, right? And you would put it together like any other specter build, but then you would link them up to super juice them, right? And so any linked specter would be super juice. Now, the only problem there is if the minion runs away from you and breaks the link. And so you probably would want to run Meat Shield on it and then build your main character up to be pretty tanky. There's also this argument that this Benevolence Belt as well could apply. So non-unique utility flasks you use apply to link targets as well, which means you could have auto-triggering flasks, which essentially keep like procking up your minions. And this would also answer the question to where it has magic utility flasks applied to you have 40% increased effect. Non-unique utility flasks you use apply to... Okay, so we don't even need that. It's just built into the Ascendancy, so we don't actually need that at all. So non-unique utility flasks. So I was wrong about that. I thought it was unique utility flasks. So essentially, this belt's built in your Ascendancy. You don't need this. Soulbound, so this would be link skills have up to 15% increased cast speed. Link skills have 15% increased skill effect duration. Link targets cannot die for 2 seconds after you die. Lose no experience. So again, you don't even need this ring. But I would say this Hand of Phrecia item would actually be pretty usable in buffing up your link skills and whatnot. So the links that exist in the game currently are Intuitive Link. So it triggers a supported spell from link target's location. So basically, like when you link, maximum 1 link from any source per target. If you die, the target dies. You do get a reduction in the spell damage as well, but targets an allied player to apply a buff which links you to them for a duration. If the target dies, so basically, yeah, when you target onto the ally, it can cast the spells that you've got linked into the intuitive link spell setup. This could actually become usable with this configuration and change with the Ascendancy, right? Vampiric link. This is just like life. This is like life steal sort of stuff. So really, it's not that good. Destructive link. So this is link target has increased critical strike multiplier. Link target's main hand critical strike chances equal to yours. So that's actually quite strong. So you could have like a max crit item on your character, and then you could link that to your minion, and then they would be really strong. This one actually looks like additional effects, so base duration. So yeah, it is still duration based as well, from what I can see here. Frigid Bond's the coolest one. So this puts a link between you and your allies, but then you do like cold dot over time. There is an argument that this could be totally abused by this Ascendancy, because you could just like throttle the hell out of the aura effect of the link, and that could potentially add a lot more damage. But this is something that we would have to try if we play around with this. Soul Link, the link target takes less damage, 30% of damage from hits against target are taken from your energy shield before them. So this would be like an Aegis or Aurora setup. That would probably work in your favor. Maximum one link. Again, if the link dies, you die. You've got Flame Link as well. Basically, this is link target gains added fire damage, and also gains added fire damage to 5% of your maximum life. So if you stack a ton of life, you get 5% of that, and your minion can then use that as its own damage. And then we got Protective Link, which increases the block chance of the target that you link to, and they also recover life when they block. That could be good, but it's quite irrelevant. Flame Link, like Soul Link, Frigid Bond, and Destructive Link, and maybe Intuitive Link are probably the best link skills to use, with Hand of Phrecia in this case. Anyway, do I think that this is fantastic? I don't know. This is something that we would need to test to figure out if it works. There's not a lot of precedent of trying to get link skills to work, because quite frankly, link skills aren't that great. But if you're playing party play as well, this is probably incredibly powerful for buffing up an already super juiced up ally. So I could see this being totally abused and being a lot of fun. But yeah, I actually think Paladin's really cool. It's unique. It's not like conventionally like holy light damage, like heaven's like light coming from the sky. But I think you could do a lot with this to make link skills actually work, which would be really cool for the first time ever. Without it sort of requiring you to put crappy uniques into your build, it sort of compensates for that. And not to mention, you would be able to make your character quite defensive. And being in the lower point of the tree, just to talk about that a little bit as well, essentially, like, we would be starting down here, right? So you would be looking to basically travel through the interior lanes in here and go up, and then build up into these minion areas nodes up here. So this is probably where you want to go, because this is going to have all your link skills. And like, to add to this too, there are a lot of areas, like even close by, which give you, not so much in there, but up in here, which give you like buffs to links. So we got link buffing up here, we got link buffing in here, and we got link buffing in here, right? So this could actually be quite powerful if you are using link skills and actually doing something with it. So yeah, there are definitely some options here. And this would also mean that you can get access to a lot of attack block. So you could come down here, get more attack block here. You could get access to Blood Mage. So potentially we could run like a Blood Mage setup, because we could use like either the Fire Link setup or Flame Link. And then that would do a percentage of that maximum life as you know, damage for your minions. So you could do like some sort of flame-based minion. Or even flame golems or something like that, arguably, and you could then intuitively link, or you could link your flame golems up, and that could be really cool. But yeah, this is one of those, like, we would have to get build cooking to see how this works, and then like actually test it to see if it's not garbage. But yeah, I'm thinking you would need like specters or golems in this case, because you need permanent minions. But anyway, I actually think this is really cool. I think it's really creative, and yeah, I'm all here for it. I think this event's actually looking to be really cool. We don't even know what the other Ascendancies are yet. Like, this is actually quite exciting. Okay, so I thought I'd do these deep dives on it. I actually think this league's going to be really, really... Well, not league. To be honest with you, this could be a league, right? This could easily be a league in Path of Exile. And to be honest with you, like outside of stuff like Settlers of Kalgur, this is the most excited I've been about Path of Exile for quite some time, because this is like stuff that we want in Path of Exile to give us this option to play different builds and stuff like that. I'm actually really keen on that basis, because like for a long time we had a lot of stagnation in the Ascendancies and stuff like that. Shaking it up like this and just letting us have fun and finding crack builds again almost makes Path of Exile 1 feel like a whole new game. And I really like that. And even the endgame changes with the idol system and stuff like that, I think that's going to be really interesting. I'm not negative to it at all. Like, even if it's less powerful, it doesn't really matter, because it's a lot of fun, and that's what we want. In particular, this is going to be really good while we're waiting for stuff to be sort of patched up and fixed in Path of Exile 2. And you know what? I'm fine if Path of Exile 2 takes longer to get done with, because I would rather them take the time they need to get that game right than rush that out the door. And in the meantime, Path of Exile 1 is a fantastic game. It still is the best ARPG out there. And I know there will be people that disagree with me on that, but the reality is you're comparing a completed game against an early access, and it's just not weighing up on the economies of scale levels that it should. Path of Exile 2 is a long way off being completed, and we'll talk about build diversity in a video tomorrow night. But yeah, anyway, that's basically my thoughts on it. So yeah, if you like this video, don't forget to like and sub to the channel. If you want to see me do the other two Ascendancies, and I'll put links to them in the description as well, the Twitter post or the X post, whatever you want to call it, then yeah, you can check them out. But anyway, until next time, I will see you guys later on, and have a good one.